Welcome to this explainer. Today we're not looking at what's visible in our everyday interactions. No, we're focusing on what's deliberately kept hidden in the shadows. We're going to explore the psychology of dark persuasion and the unseen mechanisms of social group dynamics. We'll dissect exactly how certain individuals weaponize human nature itself, basically transforming subtle psychological nudges into invisible chains.
Have you ever walked into a room, maybe a familiar office or just a gathering of close friends, and felt a sudden, inexplicable shift in the atmosphere? You couldn't quite put your finger on it, but the power dynamic had changed. The air just felt heavier.
When you feel that kind of atmospheric shift, it's rarely a coincidence. The chilling reality, you are likely a pawn in someone else's game. Completely without your knowledge or consent, your emotional responses and social instincts were being actively mapped and manipulated. Section 1. The Invisible Game. Unseen Manipulation.
You see, the ultimate weapon here is invisible control. What's deeply unsettling about the research we're analyzing today is exactly how predators erode individual autonomy. They don't use force. Instead, by operating entirely beneath the surface of normal social interaction, they systematically shatter group cohesion, all without anyone even realizing an attack is taking place.
Section 2. The Machiavellian Architect. The Covert Manipulator.
So, what is a Machiavellian architect? Basically, it's a covert manipulator who maps a group's emotional landscape to exploit vulnerabilities for personal gain. Notice the precise reality of this. This isn't some theatrical villain throwing a tantrum for power. Not at all. This is a cold, calculated observer who views human emotions simply as data points. Data to be collected, analyzed, and ultimately leveraged. Think about a typical charismatic leader. They're visible, expressive, right? They draw energy by being the absolute center of attention. But in stark contrast, the covert manipulator relies entirely on strategic silence. While the charismatic leader is busy talking, the covert operator is just watching. They're gathering observational data, learning exactly what you desire, what you fear, and precisely where your blind spots are. Section 3. The Dark Triad Manifests. Real-world cues.
Now, we often hear about the dark triad traits, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy in purely clinical terms. But out there in the real world, in a boardroom or a social circle, these traits don't look like madness. Actually, they look like hypercompetence. They appear as the perfectly agreeable colleague, the friend who makes you feel incredibly special, or that manager who quietly isolates team members behind a highly professional facade. These behavioral cues are subtle, sophisticated, and deeply predatory.
Section 4. The Bonding Phase Trap. Setting the trap.
There is an exact, highly methodical formula used to capture a target. Step 1 is strategic silence. They encourage you to overshare while offering absolutely nothing of their true selves. Step 2, observational data gathering. Every insecurity you reveal is meticulously, mentally filed away. And then, Step 3, deep psychological alignment. They reflect your own values right back at you, engineering a persona designed specifically to be your perfect ally.
And the result of all this calculated alignment? False safety. That intense early connection you feel, it isn't a genuine human bond. It's a highly engineered illusion. You drop your defenses, completely unaware that you're practically inviting a predator straight into your inner sanctum.
Section 5. Weaponizing emotional mirroring. Weaponizing empathy.
Emotional mirroring is the tactical use of excessive mirroring to forge an artificial connection. Now, humans naturally mirror each other to build rapport. It's what we do. But the Machiavellian architect, they weaponize this trait. By perfectly reflecting your anger, your joy, or your grief, they essentially bypass your critical thinking. They hack your brain's trust centers and completely disarm you. This kind of manipulation targets a very core human vulnerability, social reciprocity. Because they've made you feel so profoundly understood, a deep sense of obligation is born. They weaponize this instinct to create invisible debts. You start to feel you owe them loyalty. I mean, they haven't even asked for anything yet, but the ledger is already overwhelmingly in their favor.
Section 6. Hacking tribal instincts. Tribal survival.
The actual mechanics of this trap rely heavily on deep-seated tribal instincts. Think about it. For thousands of years, being separated from the tribe meant certain death. So our brains are hardwired with an ancient need to belong to a hierarchy and to avoid social exile. And these psychological predators, they actively exploit this ancient code.
The manipulator will specifically target the amygdala, your brain's fear center. By subtly suggesting that your position in the group is somehow at risk, they trigger a massive, primal fear response. And when you're operating from a state of ancient survival fear, what happens? You cling closer to the very person who manufactured the threat in the first place. You look directly to the architect for safety.
Ultimately, all of this culminates in absolute social fragmentation. The architect successfully turns friends against one another, replacing organic bonds with invisible chains that all lead right back to them. The group might look perfectly intact from the outside, but the internal reality? It's one of isolation, paranoia, and complete control held by a single unseen operator.
Knowing exactly how the Machiavellian architect operates and how they weaponize your own empathy and ancient fears against you, you really have to look closely at your own social circles, evaluate those sudden shifts in atmosphere, scrutinize the overly perfect alignments. Take a step back and ask yourself, who holds the invisible chains dictating your reality? Thank you for joining this explainer.